Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Punk Rider Pro from Punk Electric. Now I've had this scooter for quite a few months at this point and I'm officially done with my end-to-end testing. And what I've been doing as of late is racking up the miles on this scooter, working my way up to 300, as well as riding a bunch of other scooters, which will give me a really good frame of reference for comparison. Now along the way, I've documented some pros, some cons, as well as some issues that I've run into across the way, and I'm ready to share all of those with you today. Now, full disclosure, Punk Electric did send me this scooter for review purposes, but as always, all thoughts, opinions, and conclusions are my own. Now, if at any point in time you want to double click on a specific topic, I will include a link to my video series above as well as below, and it's there that you can find the unboxing, feature overview, first ride impressions, as well as our endurance hill climb test, our extreme hill climb test, our full featured range test, our night ride, the whole 9 yards. And if at any point you have questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, let me know in the comments section below. Happy to help out. And if you do decide you want to purchase this scooter and this content has been helpful for you, I will include a link as well as coupons in the description below. And if you do use those to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the details. Alright, so first and foremost, the Punk Rider Pro is a dual motor sport commuter scooter which is capable of reaching speeds up to 32 miles an hour. Now in terms of assembly out of the box, it's actually really straightforward. The only thing you have to do is attach these handlebars and this little like wind plate slash sun deflector if you want. And all you need is 4 hex screws. The only thing to keep in mind is you are going to have to fish the wires, which of course are all pre-connected, into the stem, and once those are fished into the stem, you'll be able to attach this handlebar assembly with those 4 hex screws. Now, one of the first things that I noticed about this scooter is how clean and simple the design is. So as we work our way over, you'll see that this has got a really nice gray matte finish, which is really toned down. It's actually very easy to clean. As we work our way down here, you'll see we've got our swing arm assembly as well as this front fender assembly, which does a really good job of keeping a lot of the dirt and grime and water off of you while you're riding. As we work our way back, you'll see we've got this really nice aluminum neck, which goes into the body of the scooter, which has got a really good shape to it. And as you work your way back, you'll see you've got your functional kick plate. Now, the angle on this is perfect, especially if you're going to be going on longer rides. Working our way back, you've got more of these covered swing arm assemblies. You've got your rear kind of tire hugger style fender assembly. And then as you can see, or not see, there aren't very many wires exposed on this scooter. They do a very good job with cable management. We've got a motor wire here. We've got some brake and lighting wires there. And they're all well concealed in these swing arm assemblies. And if we work our way to the forward portion of the scooter, you'll see once again we've got our brake lines very well routed through the swing arm assembly. They've got their own little dedicated clips to keep them nice and organized. And as you can see, there's plenty of slack in there so nothing gets binded up when you're turning this front wheel. And these go up through the neck, out the neck again, very well braided, and into the actual stem of the scooter. And if we work our way up, you'll see they come out here at the top. And this is all very well put together. So this Punk Rider Pro is a great example of how cable management should be done. As I mentioned earlier, this is a dual motor scooter, so we've got a motor up front, and then of course we've got the motor in the rear. Now each of these motors is 600 nominal watts, and both combined can crank out a peak 2,300 watts of power, which is part of the reason why this scooter will go 32 miles an hour in a hurry, and also has no issues at all climbing hills, which we'll get into momentarily. Now, if you're curious what this motor looks like when we spool it up in speed mode 3, here we go. That is maximum speed. And brakes look like this. Gets those things stopped in a hurry. Speaking of brakes, this scooter does come equipped with dual drum brakes. So you've got a drum up front, and then you've got a drum on the other side of that rear tire. And when you pull that brake lever, it actuates this drum, which gives you your braking power. Something to mention about drum brakes is they don't have the stopping power of a disc brake. So if all this scooter came equipped with was drum brakes, I would be concerned because they don't have the greatest stopping power. However, the Punk Rider Pro does come with electronic braking, both in the front as well as the rear motor, and you can actually adjust the electronic brake strength in the app. So both the drums and electronic brakes work in tandem, and both together provide plenty of stopping power, which I'll show you a quick clip of right now, as well as how it performs going down a hill. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, they definitely got us to the stop. We didn't have any kind of locking up of the front or rear wheels. Nice thing about this scooter is that it does have quick adjust drums in the front and rear. So if you need a little more stopping power, you can absolutely adjust those. And then of course within the app, you can adjust the regenerative brakes to be either stronger or weaker. So one thing I'm going to say right off the bat is that the electronic braking on this scooter is extremely powerful in that maximum setting mode. And here's the regen brake. Also does a really good job at slowing us down. So the brakes on this scooter in this situation with electronic brakes set to maximum are absolutely powerful. So up here on the handlebars, we do have our manual brake levers. You've got one on the left, you've got one on the right. And then over here, you actually have a dedicated regenerative brake lever. So if you want to, avoid wearing down your drum brakes, you can use this. Just keep in mind that this will slow you down. So this is more for like planned stops, gradual stops. It's not going to stop you in a hurry. So for emergency braking purposes, I highly recommend you use the brake levers. But this here is a great way to get some, power back into your scooter through regenerative braking, as well as take some of the pressure off those drum brakes. One other thing to mention about the brakes on this scooter is there is a very tiny delay from when you actually pull on the brake lever and when the electronic brakes actually kick in. It's literally a fraction of a second, but you can definitely feel it. And it's something that I've gotten used to after like a ride or two, but it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to mention is that, if you set the brake strength to, 10 out of 10, which I only recommend when going down extremely steep terrain, if you were to ride around at full speed with that set to 10 out of 10 and you tap on those brakes, those electronic brakes come in hard. And if you're not ready for it, it could throw you over the handlebars. So, keep that in mind when you're setting your brake strength. Me personally, I like it set to between level 4 and level 5. But either of those work out very well for me. But 10 out of 10, I would only use that. I would say 7 and above, I would only use that when going downhill. In terms of the tires on this scooter, it does come with these 10-inch by 3-inch tubeless pneumatic tires, which are self-sealing. So they've got a gel installed in them so that if you do get a puncture, it tries to seal up that puncture as quickly as possible so you don't have any air loss and you can continue riding. Now this scooter does have street tread, and that's really what this scooter is designed for, riding around as a commuter on city streets, paved paths, so on and so forth. Not really designed as an off-road scooter. I did test this out on hard-packed dirt and very light gravel, and it does a really good job, especially when you consider that this scooter does have full suspension. Now, I know you don't see a whole lot going on here with suspension. There's no coil springs or any of that stuff to see here, but what it does employ are going to be rubber cartridges. So right in here, you've got a rubber cartridge, and it's that rubber cartridge that actually absorbs the impact. And when you work your way to the back here, you also have other rubber cartridge here. It's a different type of suspension. I would say that those cartridges do ride on the firmer side, but they do a pretty good job of absorbing a lot of the small lumps and bumps in the road. And when I rode this out on hard-packed dirt, light gravel conditions, it did a good job of absorbing that. The only time you're going to see the limitations is when you're riding on particularly rough surfaces. Just for reference, I do weigh in at 203, 204 pounds, and I find them to be pretty comfortable on the firmer side, but they do a good job of absorbing impact. If you're curious what the travel looks like on a rubber cartridge suspension, here you go. Once again, I weigh 203, 204 pounds. Now, in terms of the battery on this scooter, it does come equipped with a 52-volt, 18-amp-hour lithium-ion battery, which actually uses 21700 high-density cells. And so this scooter is good for 936 watt-hours of capacity. Now, the nice thing about this system is it is a 52-volt scooter. A lot of commuter options out there are 36 volts, 48 volts, With 52 volts, you're going to get less voltage sag, which as you wear that battery down on longer rides, voltage goes down, you have less power going to the motors, which means you're going to have less torque, less acceleration, less top speed as you wear that battery down. With the 52 volt system, you're going to see less of that as you approach zero. Now, speaking of longer distance rides, in terms of range, Punk Electric does state this scooter will get up to 45 miles of theoretical range while riding around in eco mode in ideal conditions. And eco mode has a top speed of 13 miles an hour. Now, if you go to normal mode or mode 2, that has a top speed of 20 miles an hour, and they say in that mode you can actually get 35 miles of range. And then, of course, if you want to ride around in sport mode or mode 3, they say you can get 24 miles of theoretical range in ideal conditions. Now, in my range test, I rode around in normal mode or speed mode 2 with the speed capped at 20 miles an hour, and I was able to get 36 miles of real world range. And I weigh in, like I said, 203, 204 pounds, which is well above the 165-pound rider they usually use to come up with these figures. So really impressive results for range. This is actually the second best scooter that I've tested to date in terms of range performance. Number one going to a range priority scooter that I've been testing and I'm currently testing, which is the eMove Cruiser V2. In terms of top speed and acceleration, Punk Electric does state that this scooter will get a maximum speed of 32 miles an hour, which I can absolutely confirm. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is play a clip from our speed and acceleration test so you can see just how long it takes this scooter to get to 32 miles an hour. All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and test the top speed of this scooter as well as the acceleration using the Draggy performance monitor. So we are now in mode 3. And we will start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, we'll check out how we did. When you compare the top speed and acceleration of this to some popular commuter scooters like the Segway Ninebot Max G2, the Apollo Go, the NIU KQi 300X, this thing gets to speed in a hurry, and of course it is a significantly quicker scooter. And so one of the nice things about having a scooter that can go faster is that you have a little bit of a buffer. So in the event of an emergency or you need to get out of a hairy situation really quickly, having that extra speed is always welcomed. Now, if portability is going to be a key concern for you, it's important to call out that this scooter does weigh in at 67.9 pounds. On their website, they claim 69 pounds. I actually put this on our commercial scale, and it weighs in 67.9. So it is going to be considerably heavier than your typical scooter. Good frame of reference, Segway Ninebot Max G2, that thing weighs in at about 53.5 pounds. Apollo Go weighs in at about 49 pounds. NIU KQi 300X, 49 pounds. But when you compare it to some of its peers, like the awesome Leopard DT1 Pro, for example, that scooter weighs similar. So definitely not going to be the most portable scooter, but it does have a relatively small form factor, and it does fold down very well, which I'll show you right now. So in order to get this thing to work, there's a little button on the other side of this lever. You push it, and you can actually pull this down. But that's not it. You actually have to also push this little silver button here, and then you can fold the stem down. Now here in the rear of the scooter, you do have a place that this stem actually latches into, and you can see there's a hook. And you can move this out and you can hook it into place. There's a little notch in there. Now keep in mind, this thing will move around. It can move around a little bit side to side. And so just be aware of that, especially if you're gonna go drive around with this, in the car, pull it out of your trunk. Make sure that this is in the locked position when you pick it up. That way it doesn't fall down. So there you go. That is the Punk Rider Pro in its fully folded state. And as you can see, it gets pretty compact. I actually have no issues at all getting this into the trunk of my Mazda CX-5, compact SUV. I don't have to fold the seats down or anything. It just fits in the trunk, no problem. You can also put this across the back seats if you do have a smaller car. If you want a little bit of a size comparison, here's what the Punk Rider Pro looks like next to the Segway Ninebot Max G2. Here's what it looks like next to the Apollo Go. Here's what it looks like next to the gigantic Segway ZT3 Pro. Here it is side by side with the king of range, the eMove Cruiser V2, the small but mighty InMotion Climber, And finally, because I'm tired of pulling out more scooters, this is what it looks like next to the awesome Leopard DT1 Pro. So as you can see, the Punk Rider Pro, even though you get a lot of performance out of this scooter, it does come in a relatively small form factor, especially when you consider everything you're getting with this scooter. If you're going to be riding around at night or in low light conditions, one of the standout features of this scooter is its 360-degree lighting. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is dim the lights and show you what this looks like in low light conditions. So as you can see, with the lights dimmed, it has really good ambient lighting, which is really important because it's not just about seeing what's ahead of you when you're out there riding. It's also critical that other people on the road see you as well. And ambient lighting like this can make all the difference in the world. As you can see, we've got our headlight here. Overall, does a pretty decent job of illuminating the path ahead. We've got this ambient lighting that goes up and down the stem. And then, of course, you've got the ambient lighting here that goes along the sides of the deck. And then, in the back, we have a tail light, brake light, as well as one on the fender. So that way, you know, people can see you directly behind, as well as from a higher angle. And these are brake lights as well, so both of those actually get brighter when you pull on the brake levers. Let's see if it does that with regenerative braking. It does it with regenerative braking as well. The scooter also has turn signals. So this is what the turn signals look like. You know, I think they could be a lot more orange. These are pretty weak for turn signals. You know, in like total blackout conditions, yeah, you can see them, but I'll just tell you right now, they are not very visible at during the daytime. Nighttime, you can, you know, kind of discern that the turn signals are on. Daytime, they're completely washed out. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now, if you live in a place with hills, the good news is this is, of course, a dual motor scooter that can crank out 2,300 watts of power and has got plenty of torque. I did take this on our endurance hill climb, which is 17.5 miles round trip. So it's 9.5 miles to all three lookout points on South Mountain here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And then, of course, it's 8.5 miles down the mountain. And this scooter didn't have any issues at all whatsoever. We actually flew up that mountain. I will include a link above as well as in the description below if you want to see what the entire performance looks like. I also took this on our extreme hill climb test, which does have grades up to 23%. And this thing powered through as well. And so very nice to have a dual motor scooter, especially if you're living in a place with lots of hills. If you've got a lot of hills where you're at, especially steep hills, you're not going to want to cheap out on a scooter because the last thing you want to do is, you know, have to walk your scooter up a hill. Like, that's not ideal at all, especially with something like this, which is, you know, touted as being a vehicle replacement. You need something that'll get you to the top of that hill. This will absolutely do it. Now, in terms of the controls on the scooter, they are pretty straightforward. Of course, we've got our locking hand grips, we've got our manual brake levers. Here we've got a power button, which is also a mode selector button, which I'll get to in a moment. We've got our turn signals, both right and left. We've got a thumb throttle, which gives you really nice, solid, granular control of the speed of the scooter. Of course, here at the center, we have our display, which we'll look at in a moment. And then, of course, our left hand regenerative brake. As well as the horn on this scooter. What's also nice is it does come with a bell. So if you don't want to use the horn and scare people off, you can always use the bell, which is great at getting pedestrians' attention. So to power on this scooter, all you got to do is press and hold the power button. You'll see this glorious color display turn on. Here you'll see your speed. You'll see your battery level represented by these 5 battery bars. You'll see dual or single motor mode. So it says dual mode. If it's in single, it'll just say mode. Here, this number 1 is your speed level, so 1, 2, and 3. Remember, 1 will take you up to 13 miles an hour, eco mode. Number 2, which is normal mode, will take you up to 20 miles an hour. Number 3, sport mode, will take you up to 32 miles an hour. Here, you've got an odometer. It says 388. I think this is kilometers. You know, I'm not convinced this is miles. You know, because I ride around a set route and it's definitely not that. You can set the units of measure in the app itself, but I still think that this is kilometers. I'm not sure about that. But anyways, you can toggle through these menu items by double clicking or I should say triple clicking the power button, which is pretty awkward, but you click 1, 2, 3, do it again. Takes a little practice. It'll give you your trip meter. 1, 2, 3. Will take you to your volts, which is really nice. Sometimes scooters just give you battery bars, and those battery bars aren't always the most accurate things to go off of, so having the voltage here is awesome. Fully charged, this thing is just under 58 volts. So normally with the 52 volt system, when you fully charge it, it'll take it to 58.8 volts. The charger that this scooter comes with is 58.1, and when I charge this up, it gets close to 58, but not quite. So just keep that in mind. When you triple click this again, that'll give you your elapsed time from when you powered on the scooter. Now, if you want to change speed mode, it's a single click, and there you go 2. Click it again. There you go 3. If you quadruple click 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll turn on the lights for the scooter. So I will say this is a very funky way to power through the different settings on this scooter. It does get the job done. Ideally, I'd like to see some other dedicated buttons for some of those functions, but at the end of the day, this is what it is, and I've gotten used to that. Here, of course, we have a horn. Here's what that sounds like. Okay, and then we've got our beautiful little bell, which is more pedestrian friendly. Now, one of the things that I really do like about this scooter is the fact that it is app enabled. So you can connect this via Bluetooth. They do use a third-party app. It's not the greatest in the world, but it gets the job done. Here you can see battery percentage. You can see a nice little lovely picture of the scooter, voltage of the battery, and then it allows you to come in here and manage things like turn on your headlight, enable cruise control. If I click the headlight button, as you can see, that's a really loud noise. That's one of the things that I think could be improved, is that when you enable these features, like turning on the headlight and stuff, it is very loud. That beep is the sound of a horn on a lot of electric scooters. Anyways, you can come in here, manage the settings, firmware upgrade, all that fun stuff. If you want to do that, you can come back. And then if you want to manage some additional settings, you can go to vehicle setup, DIY performance settings. You hear that noise? That is loud. That's a loud beep. It's terrifying. It's late. It's like 1 in the morning right now. And I've got this thing beeping all over the place. But anyways, you can adjust your torque settings here however you want, 5, 6, 7. You can adjust the driving maximum torque settings. So that's starting torque, that's maximum torque. And then, of course, you can come in here and adjust your brake strength, which is always nice. And then there's some top speed adjustment settings there. You go back into here. And there's some other things in here. There's a dashboard and stuff that you can use. It looks like the scooter just powered off, which it does. I wish the timeout was a little bit longer. It did power off. But you can actually go in here. There's a sport dashboard, but I haven't really used that. Anyways, there is an app. I just wish the beeping sounds could be toned down a little bit because it is a little scary. Now, with all of my reviews, I am 100% transparent. As I mentioned in the beginning, I did come up with a list of pros and cons, which I've kind of gone through as I walked you through the features of this scooter. But I did run into some issues with this scooter, and so I'm going to go over those now. The first is a knocking sound that I had when I was going on my hill climb test. I originally thought it was the fender because the fender did come loose. There was no thread locker on there, so I did add some thread locker to adjust that, and it's never happened since. But I heard a knocking noise. I thought it was the fender. It wasn't. It was actually the controller in the scooter. It was bouncing around a little bit, making some knocking sounds. Good news is it gave me the opportunity to kind of take this scooter apart and see what the insides look like, and it turns out it was just that controller bouncing around against the metal frame, just like some light tapping. I'll show you a clip right now. Now, if you do want to access that battery compartment, you will have to flip the scooter on its back. You'll remove the hex screws, and then a big plastic, cover plate comes off, and that'll expose the battery and controller compartment, which is all metal, and it's fully sealed with silicone sealant, as well as some screws. So you've got to undo those screws and then really pry off that silicone sealant because it's on there really good. It does have an IPX6 water resistance rating, so you can ride around, in rain, in wet conditions. Just keep in mind, scooter companies don't cover water damage because they don't know if you rode around in rain or whether you threw this into a lake or not. And so they don't do any kind of water damage. So just keep that in mind when you're riding around in especially wet conditions. But it does have that IPX6 rating. Anyways, once you get that cover off, you'll find the battery as well as the 2 controllers and a bunch of wiring. What I did to get the controller to stop bouncing around was I just added a little piece of felt at the bottom of that tray. where the controllers are resting, and that dampened that. And so now I don't have any kind of noises at all whatsoever. And if you followed my content for a while, you'll know that I don't like squeaks, creaks, knocking sounds. I hate it. I will rip things apart until I find the source and eliminate it. So happy to say this is a very quiet, smooth riding scooter. Now, just be sure if you're going to be opening up that battery compartment, just get yourself some silicone sealant, scrape off the old stuff, put on some new, and then redo everything. Now, I'm not recommending you do any of that unless you actually have a problem, and of course I would reach out to the company first before going on any of those little endeavors. The next issue that I had were these little hex screws that are used to attach the fender assembly. They were actually coming loose on my hill climb ride, which caused this to kind of move around and make a little bit of noise. All I had to do was add some blue thread lock and the rest was history. Punk Electric may have already addressed this by pre-installing thread locker on those screws. The next thing I want to mention is that this does have a very nice rubber deck, and it's also got this little rubber adhesive mat on the rear kick plate. I will tell you right now, the adhesive that it comes with is not the greatest. So all you've got to do is spray that down with a stronger adhesive, and this shouldn't go anywhere, but it hasn't been a problem with me. You just don't want to be sliding your feet, up and down this. You want to place your foot on this, but not slide it around. That'll keep this kind of trim stuff from peeling up. All right, folks, so given everything that we've gone over today, what are the things that I love about this scooter? Number one, it comes in a relatively small form factor given its level of performance. It's a 32-mile-an-hour scooter that can get 36 miles of range. It's 52-volt system, 18-amp-hour battery, dual motors, plenty of deck space, and full suspension. That's a lot of scooter in a 67.9-pound unit. So overall, very impressed with that. Number two, this scooter does exceptionally well on hills. So it did very well on our endurance hill climb test as well as our extreme hill climb test. So I'm very confident this is going to be able to tackle pretty much anything you put it up against. Number three is going to be the range for this scooter. We got 36 miles of real world range. I weigh 204 pounds. And we were able to go the distance on this scooter. And as I mentioned before, it's the second best performance of any scooter that I've tested on this channel, falling just behind the eMove Cruiser V2. Number four, this scooter has a very smooth ride, and it's very comfortable to ride on longer distances, especially because it's got those swept back handlebars. And finally, number five, I really like the lighting situation on this scooter. As I mentioned before, it's not important to be able to only see what's ahead of you. It's also important for other people to be able to see you. And I can tell you the difference is night and day when I'm riding around on a scooter like this. People are looking over like, hell, what the heck is that? Is that a UFO? Should I take out my phone? Like, what's going on here? People don't know what they're looking at, and they realize, oh, wow, it's a scooter. And I've had quite a few people walk up to me, ask me about this scooter, especially here in my neighborhood. So now that I've gone over the things that I love about this scooter, what are some things that I think can use some improvement? Number one, we just went over it. It's that noise that this scooter makes when you're going in the app, as well as the turn signals. They're also very loud, but when you go in and save a setting in the app, it makes that atrociously loud and scary sound. They can definitely tone that down a little bit. Number two is that single button that you use on the right-hand throttle to toggle through all the settings, like changing speed modes, changing from single to dual motor, switching through what you see on the screen. I wish there were more buttons. I've gotten used to this. It gets the job done, but I wish in future iterations of this scooter, they give you more buttons to play with. Number three is going to be the slight fraction of a second delay from when you pull the brake lever and when the actual electronic brakes kick in. It's really, in the higher electronic brake levels that you set in the app, 7 to 10, that you really feel that. So like I said, levels 4 to 5 is perfect for me at a 203-pound rider for everyday riding. Number four is going to be the latching mechanism. Like I showed you there, you definitely want to make sure that hook is in place because that thing can slide around and come loose if you're not prepared. So if you're taking it out of the trunk of your car after a long ride, just make sure it's properly attached before you go lifting that thing up. And finally, number five, I think they can use some stronger adhesive for that little rubber mat on the rear kick plate. That way it doesn't come loose in the first place. So given all the things that I've gone over today, who do I recommend this scooter for? Well, if you're in the market for a commuter style scooter that gets excellent range, has dual motors, can scale hills with ease, folds down relatively compact, and isn't as excessively heavy as some of these other performance-oriented commuter scooters are, this Punk Rider Pro is absolutely a solid option, and I definitely give it a strong recommend. I got this scooter many months ago. It's still sitting here in my garage. I still ride it on a regular basis. And that says a lot. I'm deciding to keep this scooter around for the long term. So definitely stay tuned to this channel because I will be publishing more content on this scooter in the coming weeks and months. But anyways, if you are interested in this scooter, I will include a link as well as any available coupons in the description below. And if you use that to purchase this scooter, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. Now let me know if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, or if there's something I didn't cover that you'd like to see me cover in another video. Happy to address that. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.